This is the first look at the all-new DJI RS5. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about the major differences between the new RS5 and the RS4 Mini to help you decide which one's best for you. So I'm not gonna make this video super technical. I'm just gonna go over the visual differences, the physical differences, the limits that each gimbal can handle, and some of the new features that the RS5 has that the RS4 Mini does not have. Okay, starting off with the visual differences, the RS5 is pretty massive compared to the RS4 Mini. There's honestly not that huge of a difference in weight, but visually it is a lot bigger than the RS4 Mini, which is telling me that hopefully it's gonna hold a lot more camera. So the RS4 Mini comes in this gray color and the RS5 comes in the satin black, which looks really, really clean to the eye. Now both gimbals have intelligent tracking, which you can see right here. Functionality between the two are totally different. In the RS4 Mini, you're really only allowed to subject track humans. New RS5, from what I hear, you're allowed to track any sort of object as long as you can lock onto it. The next difference that I'm seeing from the RS4 Mini to the RS5 is just the length of the suitcase handle. The RS4 Mini is pretty compact, and you look at the RS5, it's a lot longer. It probably helps with comfortability. The next thing you'll notice on the suitcase handle is there's actual functional buttons. So while you're in the suitcase handle mode, you can totally control the gimbal, which is really, really cool. The RS4 Mini does not have that. All right, so the next big difference between the RS4 Mini and previous gimbals to the new RS5, which I'll show you in a second, is the way you balance. So with every gimbal, you have a little lock lever that you unlock, and as soon as you do that for each axis, you can slide to balance. And over the years, this has been a big pain in the butt. As years have gone on, they have chosen better materials that allow it to slide a little easier, which has made this process a little bit more enjoyable, but the RS5 has taken it to another level. Let me show you. So now in the RS5, you still have the same little lever, so you unlock it, but instead of having to slide the whole mechanism now, they have a little scroll wheel where you can just scroll this wheel and it will slide over for you. So you don't actually have to physically slide the whole thing now. It's a lot more enjoyable. You just scroll this wheel, find your balancing point, and then lock the lever. It makes this whole balancing a gimbal a lot more enjoyable, a lot more seamless, and honestly, just more functional. This is a little detail, but pretty cool. But on the RS4 Mini, this little tripod leg right here, you have to individually close each one if you want to open and close it. But with the RS5, they just work together. So you just have to push one and all the legs open. Pretty cool. Now, as far as the battery life goes between these two gimbals, I'm sure the RS5 has better battery life than the RS4 Mini. Let's put a camera on these gimbals and let's kind of test the limits and see how heavy we can go with each gimbal. All right, it's the next morning. I wanted to wait for a little bit better light conditions. The camera that we're gonna be using to mount these gimbals is an FX3, and the lens that we're gonna start off with is the Sony G Master 24-70 Mark II. I feel like this is the most standard setup that probably a lot of people are going to be using. So I wanted to set this up first and we'll see if we can go heavier. Me personally, I want to know if the FX3 can hold the Sony G Master 70-200 Mark II and what its limitations are around that. But I already mounted this up last night. And it seems very, very stable, very strong. And it can hold this camera no problem. Can control the joystick from the suitcase handle, which is really cool. And we can subject track and lock on. In my early experience so far, it hasn't been the best, but maybe the lighting conditions aren't optimal. So pretty cool that you can track objects now instead of just faces. All right, now let's see if we can throw on a Sony G Master 70-200. See if this thing can handle it. If you guys are familiar with the Sony G Master 70-200 Mark II, it is a big lens. It's not overly heavy, so I am curious to see if it can hold it. It does have internal zooms, so as long as it holds the weight, the zooming in and out should be perfectly fine. The last little test I want to do before I swap out this lens is see if I can actually zoom in without losing balance. And we're losing a little bit of balance. It still kind of holds, but it's not bad actually. I mean, I'm getting a little bit of an orange signal, a little bit of red signal, but it's still holding just fine. So I wouldn't crank into all the way to 70, but going to 50 millimeters, no problem. Moment of truth. Do you think that this is gonna hold? We definitely need to rebalance it. So this axis right here, this thing ain't gonna fit. It's a sad day. What a bummer. It is too top heavy. Okay, honestly, I'm just gonna fire it up and see if it holds. Kind of nervous. Okay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Okay. Wouldn't recommend it. All right, so the limits, I definitely would not put a 70 to 200. I've seen people do it, but they have like some sort of counterbalance that they use for attachments. But as far as just putting it on the normal way, this lens is definitely too top heavy. All right, we'll crank this on. See what we're looking like. So we are green. That's good. Oh, wants me to calibrate. All right, so it is holding the 24 to 70 fairly well. I mean, it's doing its job. It does feel like a lighter setup, I'm not gonna lie. And it seems like it can handle it, which is a good sign. It does feel a little bit more cheap and just kind of plasticky. 35 millimeters. Still green. 50 millimeters? 50 millimeters is in the orange, but it's still holding on. So I don't know. Honestly, the RS4 Mini is keeping up. The only downside is I can't object track. So like on the other gimbal, I was object tracking this camera that's shooting me right now. Pretty impressed with the RS4 Mini. It's able to hold the same camera, same setup at 50 millimeters. Let's go to 70 and just see what happens. So we're fully red right now. And we might lose the balance. We might lose balance. It's holding on though. Even though it's red, it's still holding on. Man, I don't know. Pretty impressed with this little gimbal. I would say if you're just looking for a gimbal to purely just help get smoother shots, this is a great gimbal to get. I think if you want to get more into the subject tracking, I think that's where the RS5 actually starts to kind of separate itself. But other than that, I mean, this is a smaller, more compact setup. It's just as capable as this. The battery life doesn't last as long, which is to be expected. Obviously, there are little things like these little tripod legs. The way you can balance it is a little bit more refined and easier to handle on the RS5. Honestly, this looks a little bit better. Having control on the suitcase handle is pretty cool. I think both are very capable gimbals and I'm pretty impressed with both of them. What I really want to test out more is how good this object tracking is on the RS5. Can I lock on to small little objects and can it lock on and hold instead of losing? That'll be the real test for me to be able to really determine which gimbal is more worth in 2026. So it kind of wraps up everything that I wanted to cover in this video. The RS4 Mini is a very capable gimbal. The RS5 just came out, bigger battery life, object tracking instead of just human tracking. Also a very capable gimbal. So I think there is about a $300 or $400 difference between the RS4 Mini and the RS5. So again, I would say if you want a really compact setup, the RS4 Mini is great. It's capable, it can handle the FX3 with the 24 to 70, no problem. If you're looking for just the newest, latest, more refined gimbal out there, For $300 more, you can get the RS5 with the new suitcase remote handle, with the scroll wheels, better battery life, also very, very capable. If you guys have any questions on the gimbals, or if you want me to test certain setups, let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next one. Peace.